Hello, fellas and ladies. We're still doing TIFF, more TIFF. I also covered TIFF for Bite Size Breakdown. If you want to follow them, you should. If you don't want to follow them, you're stupid, because they're great, and I wouldn't be here without them, so, yeah, it's the least you guys can do, eh? We'll be continuing with a real strong one, probably one you guys wanted to hear from me for a little bit, if you're a fan of mine, all 8 of you. ANORA, the latest film from Sean Baker, which won the Palme d'Or. And this film stars Mikey Madison, who stars as a sex worker who experiences a Cinderella-esque story when she becomes a client for a Russian oligarch's son and eventually elopes with him. I've been very into Sean Baker's filmography since I discovered his existence with the Florida Project. I loved that movie, and I loved his next movie, Red Rocket. I also loved his other movie, Tangerine. I know there's some others from him that I have yet to see, but in terms of what I've seen, and including ANORA, Sean Baker is huge time 4 for a director. He clearly has a strong interest in themes of class and sex work. He also very clearly has a talent for making even the absurd feel natural and lived in. And I think ANORA might be Sean Baker's masterpiece. The movie begins as a straight up comedy, bit of a romance movie. We get introduced into the world of ANORA's life and all of its flourishes and pitfalls. We immediately see the dichotomy of ANORA and this Russian oligarch's son's lifestyle. ANORA's in a position where sex work is the best financial possibility for her, whereas the Russian, named Ivan or Vanya, has no job, just fucks around and parties nonstop, has a seemingly endless supply of his parents' money. When the relationship begins to form, there's nothing about it that's sensationalized or erotic even. They fuck a lot, don't get me wrong, but it's not hot. I think that was a very intentional decision. I think that's pretty clear that this relationship is fake and he essentially buys ANORA, and I don't think Sean Baker wants to make this relationship quote-unquote hot. The movie then kicks into a whole new gear, and I think this is when the movie is at its best, because it goes so beyond off the rails in a very contained way. People are constantly talking over each other and yelling and shit. It's just a huge handful of controlled chaos. It's wildly funny. Like, this movie had me audibly laughing. This movie does not hold back on absurdism and craziness, but never in a way that, like, doesn't feel real. Like, yeah, a lot of shit that happens is pretty outlandish, but everything that's said and done seems pretty authentic, which is on brand for Baker. It's still noticeable here. There are several moments of unhinged stress levels going off the charts. Mikey Madison, my fucking god. It's a kind of performance that you watch and think, I need to bow at the ground she walks on. Like most Sean Baker protagonists, ANORA is a fairly complicated person, and Mikey Madison portrays it with an uneasy amount of authenticity. There's one scene in particular where she's just screaming, like actual bloody murder screaming. I don't know how a human can do that, like, especially considering I imagine the shot had multiple takes. Mikey Madison's performance is the kind of performance that goes down in history, and I do think her performance alone will have a strong legacy attached to her. The ensemble as a whole is really excellent. Love the naivete of Mark Eilstein. Like, I'm really interested to see where this kid goes, but honestly, I really love the performances of the, for lack of a better term, the group of henchmen. Karen Karagulian gave my personal favorite performance aside from Mikey Madison as Vanya's parents' liaison. Him, as well as Vasha Tovmasyan and Yura Borsov, have such a strange meekness in their performances. Like, they're constantly panicking and their level of confidence varies from moment to moment. It's added extra layers of, like, comedy, as they seem to have, like, this almost panicked reluctancy to do what they have to do. The movie is very well made across the board. Very fun use of editing, but certainly not in a flashy way. The movie has a very natural look to it. The shots in Vegas when ANORA is at her highest level of like, dopamine. The movie has a very colorful pop to it. At 2 hours and 20 minutes, the movie is so breezy. There's maybe one sequence in the movie that made me think they could have cut this down, but I was having such a fun time that I honestly didn't mind it. I will admit there was a moment in the movie when I was kind of thinking to myself, what's the movie saying here? Like, what's the purpose here? And when the finale helped contextualize the whole movie in a very tragic way, it made the movie complete for me. Simply saying that everyone is just struggling to make it by in whatever ways they can. Whether it be ignoring having to succumb to a societal low, or Yura Borisov's character just being forced to be a brute, or even Vanya with his endless supply of money, there's always some struggle to just make it day by day. And I won't give it away, but the very final scene between Mikey Madison and Yura Borisov is quite incredible. ANORA is easily a top tier film of the year, and might honestly be my favorite of the year so far. It's a movie that seemingly has it all. It's insanely funny, yet its very tragic undertones are never glossed over. It's both breezy and uncomfortably intense. Mikey Madison gives an all-timer performance of the titular character alongside an outstanding ensemble, and it's pretty clear to me that ANORA will remain one of the year's absolute best. I'm giving it 9.5 burnt up Mikey Madisons from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood out of 10. Oscar-wise, this movie seems poised for a Best Picture nomination. Sean Baker is getting nominated for Best Original Screenplay and Best Director. And in my opinion, as long as ANORA's top 5 contender, I feel like you also get an editing nom. I don't think the editing is quite as flashy as the Uncut Gems comparisons suggested, but it could just be that thing that happens by nature of how much they like the movie. Mikey Manus is going to get in. Like, she's just a secure lock that I don't see much else to talk about except the fact that she could even win. I don't even think the movie has to win Best Picture for her to win anymore. Like, I think it's just become such, like, a force of nature that you're, like, appreciating for Mikey doesn't really have to do with how much you appreciate the movie, but again, they're gonna appreciate the fuck out of the movie, aren't they? I've seen some say it can win Best Picture. I would agree with that statement. I think it's very poised. Obviously, it got 3rd place at TIFF. Definitely not a bad sign that it, like, ranked on top of that Palme d'Or win. It's clearly doing well with audiences. ANORA is just clearly going to be one of the strongest players this season. I think, like, a lot of people are kind of agreeing that original screenplay is probably just going to go to Sean Baker, which I would potentially agree with, but I want to see how the season plays out a little bit before I just say it's him. I do see some people trying to float other nominations like Mark Eidelstein or maybe cinematography. Mark Eidelstein's barely in the movie. Honestly, maybe Yuri Borisov could have a better shot if they really fucking like ANORA. Cinematography, I've seen some people float out. If they, I feel like that would only happen as like a we love the movie thing if there's like a slot available, but I don't know if that's gonna happen because there are, obviously it's not gonna be above Dune or Brutalist. Conclave is probably above it. You can even throw in a Nickel Boys if that gets in. There's also Saturday Night that could be a problem for ANORA. I don't personally see it, but I guess if you really wanted to go out and say they're gonna fawn over this movie so hard that happens, I guess you could say cinematography. But personally speaking, I think that it getting its 5 nominations, picture, director, actress, screenplay, and editing, that's good enough. It's not so much that they dislike the movie, it's just the nom ceiling, it's just not that much to do. There's no score, sound work isn't like anything to write home about. Again, not a bad thing, it's just the nature of the movie. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about ANORA now. I loved it. I love it. I love it. You're all going to go see it. My review was a waste of time. So like, subscribe, and share on that note.